Where did we stop in our last class? We were talking about TypeScript. So, Angular framework and TypeScript. That is where we have stopped. So today we'll go through interfaces, how to use interfaces of TypeScript. In the last class, we saw functions, optional parameters, default initialized parameters. We saw variable declarations in TypeScript. It's slightly different, right? So we saw how to define a function with parameters, how to specify the return type for the function. So the return type also, it's slightly different. The way we specify the return type for the function is slightly different, right? So these are the things which you people have noticed in last class. So today we'll discuss more of it. Okay? Yes. You know, in TypeScript, as I told you people, we can define classes. Already we saw a TypeScript class, how it looks like. We saw that example of Angular application, right? So when we saw how to define a class, how to declare variables in the class, define methods in the class. Even here we saw one example of how to define a class. Next, today we'll talk about interfaces. Okay, interface, TypeScript interface, how it looks like. So basically, okay, why do we use interfaces? You people are familiar with interface concept, right? So why do we use interfaces?
Make use of the same code in other classes. To create the method signatures, abstract methods.
To define to define a contract for the class, to provide the method specifications, the details about the methods the class is supposed to implement. That is how we use interfaces, right? That is how we use interfaces here. Yes. So that is what you saw in Java. An interface can be used to define, or it is used to specify the contract for the class. It is used to specify the details about the method the class is supposed to implement. Yes. So what about interfaces here? So you can also use interfaces similar to the way we have used interfaces in Java, but additionally, you can also use interfaces for type checking here. Type checking for type safety, I can say. So let's see. I'll give you an example for that. So when I say type safety or type checking, what does that mean? Type checking. I'm not talking about data type. Type checking. Let's see. Okay. So we'll explain it with an example. You'll find this example in the official documentation of TypeScript tutorials. Let me define a function this way. Print label, labeled object. Yeah. Understanding this code is key for your Angular framework because we'll be using the scripting language itself, TypeScript itself in Angular completely for coding purpose. Now you can check this method here. Function, I'm sorry. You know, can someone explain this function parameter? So what exactly it means? Can you people tell me what exactly it means?
String, I think.
Sorry. Okay. You know what? Here, yes, it indicates that this function with the name print label, it takes a parameter. What is the parameter name? What is the parameter name?
Labeled object.
Labeled object. Labeled object. This is the parameter name actually. Followed by the parameter name, you have a colon, and then the data type details will be specified, right? Yes. Remember this point. Always here in TypeScript, first the variable name followed by the data type details. You know, the parameter, sorry, the data type, what it indicates that basically it takes an object, a JSON object, or you can say a JavaScript object, which should contain that property label, which is of type string. Okay, in that object, which is passed here to this print label function, it should have this property label. There should be a property label. That is what it indicates. I hope you people got it. Yes. Okay. The property type, it helps your compiler or interpreter to understand what type of value the function takes. So this is type safe, I can say. Now it indicates that this function, it strictly takes an object. This function here, it takes an object which contains a property called as label, and it should be of type string. That is what it indicates. But suppose if we don't specify the data type details, if we don't specify the data type details, so in that case, it won't be type safe, or type the parameters which you got here, I can say they're not type safe, right? Yes, it is also possible to declare a variable, a parameter, or without specifying any type details, right? It is also possible to declare the parameters without specifying any type details. So in that case, I can say that, see, for example, if I do this, is it valid here? Can I do this? Only labeled object. Is it valid here? Can I do this?
No.
I can say it is valid definitely. This time we are not specifying the data type details. So this parameter, I can say that it is not type safe. You know what? Here, so this function you can pass any type of value. This function accepts any type of value. Yes. Am I right? That is what happens here. This function takes any type of value. You can't add a restriction that this function should take only a particular type of value. Can you add such restriction now here? Is it possible? You can't do that. I hope you people got the point, right? Can you add such restriction? No. By adding the type details, so we are making this parameter more type safe. That means you will have more control over this parameter. What type of value you can pass to this parameter? You see, we will be able to strictly confine this parameter to a particular type here. Yes. Okay. So now let's do this. Here, let me just add some functionality here. Just I'll lock that details. Whatever that object which you got, we'll take that object. Okay. We'll read that property here. Yes. Labeled object, but label. Yes. Let my object equal to, we'll create a TypeScript object, say size 10 object, something like this. So what we are doing here in the statement, we are creating a JSON object and it contains how many properties or key name value pairs? Two. We've got two properties I can say. This object has got two properties. One is size and the other one is label. These are the two properties which you'll see, right? Yes. Yes. So we are creating a JSON object. That is the first thing which you are doing here. Now this JSON object, can we pass it to this print label function? This JSON object, can we pass it to this print label function? You see here, have you noticed it's let keyword? As I told you people, so let keyword is basically used to declare a variable here in TypeScript, and this is one of the new standards of ES6 specification. Okay, yes. So which JavaScript also is supposed to support. JavaScript also is supposed to support this keyword let to declare the variables. Okay, according to ES6 standards. Yes. Okay. Now, can we pass that object? You see, I'm calling that my label function and passing that object. Is it valid altogether? What do people think? We can do that. You know what? Here, because this object contains this property label, okay? Because this object contains the property label, so this is totally valid. Yes. So let's do one thing. So we'll try to test this code. Um, Instead of using console.log, okay, what else? No problem. Just run this code. Just click on inspect. Yes. Okay. You see, you got this output. 510 object. You can do this. I hope you people got it. So is it clear for everyone? Next, for suppose here, let's say I'm modifying this object. If you can check this, just check this object. Now we have two properties in this object. One is size and the other one is message. Can we pass this object to that function? We can't do that. It is not possible because in this object we don't have a property called as label. You see, in the parameter you have specified that that object which is passed on, it should have a property called as label. Definitely, in that object you should have a property called as label, but it is missing. Yes, so this won't be a valid parameter or valid argument. You can say to that print label function. It should have that property. Yes, you see, you got an error here. What it says, the argument of type size, number, message, string is not assignable to parameter of type label string. So property label is missing in type. So this is what you see the type checking means. Type checking means. So basically, you see here the TypeScript, what it does, it will check whether that parameter is appropriate for that function or not. The argument, whatever the value or argument I can say, which is passed onto that function, whether it is appropriate or not. Okay, appropriate type or not, it will check for that. That is type checking. Yes. So, so what we did here, I hope you people got it. You know what? Okay, before I move on any further, you have any questions? I didn't. I'm yet to show you people interfaces. Okay, I'll show you interfaces. Don't worry. As of now, what we did here, is it clear? If anyone got any questions, let me know. Okay, good. Next, you know what? Here, in place of using this or specifying that type details, parameter type details this way, we can also go for interface here. We can also go for an interface. Yes. Now I'll change this code. I'll copy this code. Okay. First of all, let me just copy this code. Just add it here. I'm introducing interface now. You see, interface labeled value. You can give any name to the interface. Label string. What we did here? We have declared an interface, and in this interface, we got a variable called as label, and it is of type string. So here, I'll change this parameter type to interface type, labeled value. Changed it to interface type here now. So what does that means? What do people think? Yes, actually it indicates that this interface here, sorry, this function, it takes a parameter which is of type interface label value. Actually, the interface is playing a role of a type here. You know that label value is a type. You can think of it as a type which contains this property called as label. Yes, you can think of it as a type now. Yes, it plays the role of type. Yes, I hope you all got it. Now, here you'll find that it indicates that the object which is passed on to this function, it should have that label property. That is what the condition is again. Yes. This way we can use this interface type checking purpose. We can use this interface for type checking purpose. I hope you all got it, right? So this is how you can use an interface. Okay, next, what else we can do with this interface? Okay, what type of properties we can declare in that interface here? Okay, let's see. Now let's take another example to understand what type of properties we can declare in the interface. Okay, so you'll find that this is most common thing using interfaces. You need to understand this. Uh, you see, I'll declare an interface called a square config. All of you check this carefully. So you have to explain this, what I'm doing. Yes. With, let's say, I'll define an interface this way. So what does that means? What the properties of this interface indicates here? Yes. So if now what now in this interface we got two properties which are optional. Both the properties are optional here. Yes. You'll find that both the properties are optional. Color is optional. Sorry, yeah, color property is optional, where as well as this width property is also optional. Yes. Okay. Now let's write this code further here. Yeah, we can declare optional parameters in the interface this way. It is possible. Next, I'll define a function called as create square. So you have to just get habituated to this kind of code. And number, okay, here I got this function. Just look at this function once. Now what it indicates? It indicates that this function here, it takes a parameter which is of type interface. If I say if it is of type interface, that means it should take that it should take that object which should contain the properties color and width, and both are optional. The two properties you'll find that here they both are optional. Yes. Okay. Next, what this function returns, that is also important. What do you people think? what exactly this function returns. It indicates that this method, it returns an object, and that object should contain the properties color and area. It should have the properties color and area, I can say. Yes. Okay. Now let's further define the code here. Let's write the code. You see, so what I'm doing, I'm creating an object with two properties, color and area, which is same as our return type for this function now. And then you see, I'll do this config dot color. So what is config here? Config is a parameter of type square config. Config is a parameter of type square config here, right? Yes. So because it's an optional parameter in that interface, we want to check whether that optional parameter is part of that object or not. Now, okay. So whatever the object which is passed here to this function, in that object you see, this color property is optional. Color property is optional. Next, here, if that property is available in that object, then we'll assign that color which you got here to this function, to this new square new square objects property color. Yes. And also we'll check for the other property. Config dot width new square dot area equal to config dot width into config dot width. That's it. And then you can return that new square object here. That's it. Just return that new square object. I'll copy this whole code. Let's just check this. Now I can check this. So first we have an interface here. In this interface, square config, it has got two properties, color and string, which are both optional. That means whichever object you create here of this interface type, that object should have these two properties. I mean, they're optional, that too. They're optional properties, not even mandatory. Yes. Okay. Now we have this function create square, which takes that object of type square config. And you see in the function, what we are doing, we are creating a new square object with this properties width, sorry, color and area. Yes, by default we are assigning some values to that properties. White, color is white, and the area is 100. Okay. Next, see, after creating this new square object, we are checking that parameter config, which is of type new square config. In that, we are checking whether in that config object you got that color property or not. If you got the color property, then simply we are reading that color property from that config object and assigning it to this new square object here. Okay, and even we are checking for width property. If you got that width property, so we are reading that width and accordingly calculating the area here. So these are the two things which we'll be doing. Yes. So here, after creating that new square object and appropriately updating that new square object with that input content which you got, based on that input content which you got here, you have to return that object. Yes, this is what the function does here. It returns that new square object. That's it. Yes. Okay. Now next, first suppose here, yes, all of you check this. If I call that function create square and I'll pass that object, how will you create the object? Sorry, I want to create that object this way. Color, let's say blue. Now, can you people tell me what object this method is going to return here? Yes. What will be the values of that object which is written by this method or function? I'm sorry, create function. If I call the create function, what object it returns now? What will be the values of that object? It should return an object where the color will be blue and the area will be 100 because we didn't pass that width property, right? Yeah. So by default, if you don't pass the width property, it will take the area as 100. That's it. Okay. It will take the area as 100. That's it. So is it clear for you people? Yeah. Next, for suppose if I do this, let's say with 20. So what will be the output object? What we'll get? So yes, you'll find that this time the color will be blue, but the
400.
area will be 400. That will be the difference here. That's right. The area will be 400. That's it. Okay, fine. So this way we can use interface for type checking purpose. So you see, can I pass an object something like this to this create square function? Now you can check this line number 20. Actually, this will be an error. Yes, you can't pass this object. That function cannot take this object here. It won't be possible. Okay, that function, it won't be able to take this object because here you don't have that property length in that interface. We don't have the property length in that interface, right? Yes, this won't be valid. Okay, good. So these are the basics which you need to know here. Okay, so now as we progress in interfaces, you'll find more things, but I have to talk about arrow functions. So let's talk about arrow functions. Okay, now what I'm going to do is here, I'll talk about how to define an arrow function. So what is an arrow function? Let's see. First of all, in our previous sessions, we saw how to create a function, right? How to create a function. You see, so this is one way of creating a function here. And these are named functions, I can say. These are called as named functions. But in TypeScript, we can also define anonymous functions. Okay, we can also define anonymous functions. Anonymous function means a function without a name. Okay, if there is no name for the function, how come it is possible to call that function? How can we call that function? That's the point. You know, let's see. We can define an anonymous function this way without a parameter, but we have to store that function reference in a variable. Let's say sample function. Okay. So now this is an anonymous function. There is no name for this function. What we are doing here, but we are storing this function reference in a variable. What is that variable name? My function, sample function. Sample function is just the variable name. That's all. What is sample function here? It is just the variable name. Okay. Yes. It holds a reference to that function. Now you can call that function using the reference itself. This is sample function of, say, 20, comma 40. You can call the function as well. Yes. Next, this is how we can define an anonymous function. This is how we can define anonymous function. Further, you can simplify defining this anonymous function through arrow functions. Arrow functions. These arrow functions are also ES6 feature. One of the features of ES6 itself, arrow functions. Here, what we are doing, let's try to define an arrow function here. It is an anonymous function itself. The syntax of arrow function, this is how it looks like. So you'll have parameters followed by a fat arrow and the method body. This is syntax of arrow function. For example, I can define a function this way. So what is this? Now this is an arrow function. You see on the left side, you'll have that parameter types list. Means what are the parameters this function takes? What parameters this function takes? As of now, it's a function with zero number of arguments. Okay. Yes. Now here, let's define a function with parameters. Arrow function with parameters. This is one function. Next, let's say x console.log, sorry, console.log of, let's say here, I'll print this value. Now this time, console.log of x. Okay, this is an arrow function. So now here, the second arrow function which you're checking, which you're looking here, it indicates that this function, arrow function, it takes one parameter. This arrow function basically, it takes one parameter. How will you call this function? Actually, if you want to call this function, first of all, you need the reference to this function. Okay? Yes, you need a reference to this function because we don't have a name, right? If you don't have a name, you will definitely need the reference to this function here. Yes. So now we need to make sure that you store this reference somewhere. Okay? Yes, I can do this. You see, let mm, sample equal to what I'm doing. This part of the code which is on the right side of the assignment operator is the function, arrow function. That arrow function reference, I'm storing it in this sample variable. That's it. Now, how will you call this function? Can someone tell me how to call this function now?
Sample,
Just sample is enough.
curly brackets with
That's it.
brackets. Yeah.
Anything else? That's it.
With argument x.
Yeah. You need to
Experiment.
pass. You need.
Something like
Yeah, please.
Sample argument x.
So basically, you'll find that here, this function it takes one parameter, right? So you have to pass one argument, one input value. You have to pass one argument or one input value here. That is what we need to do. Yes. So sample of this way. Uh, 10. Okay. We can do this. Okay. So let's try to test this code. I'll copy this code exactly. We'll test it. Let me run this code. So let's check the output in the console. We got the 10 here if you can check this. We got 10. So similarly, if you want you can pass two values. I'll add two parameters here, x, y. This time it takes two parameters. Say 10, 20. So just adding that. So this is a short form of defining a function. Okay. Yes. So you can check this. You got 30. Okay. So what is the need for this arrow functions or anonymous functions? Anyone got any idea? Generally, how do we use this arrow functions or anonymous functions? So what is the need for it? You know, generally anonymous functions, you'll find that you can use them to define a function on the fly and pass that reference around. Yes, you can define a function here on the fly and you can pass it as a reference to another function which needs it. Yes. Okay. When you have to define a function on the fly and pass the reference, then you can make use of this anonymous functions here, I can say. Yes. So that means passing functionality as a reference, passing a function or its functionality to another function, that is the flexibility which you'll see here. Okay. Yes. I'll show you. Let's do this. You'll be doing it a lot of times in Angular. So first suppose what I will do is here now, I will define a function something like this. Set as sampler and this function now it takes a parameter. Okay, something like this sample. So that parameter, as of now we didn't declare the parameter type. It can take anything. Now to this function, what I'll do is here, I'll pass a function reference. Okay, to this function, I'll pass a function reference, another function reference, and this function will be able to make use of it. Okay, yes. See, for example, sample of that's it. Now let's call that function test sampler. Have you noticed that the parameter type, if you don't specify anything, it will be considered as any. Any means any type of parameter. The parameter type can be anything, any type. Yes. Now here I'll do this. In line number 5, what exactly we are doing? Can you people tell me?
Passing function as a argument.
You're passing, I'm calling that test sampler function, and I'm passing that arrow function reference. I'm defining a function here on the fly. I'm defining a function on the fly. You see that arrow function, we are defining it here, and we are passing that function's reference, I can say. We are passing the function reference as a argument. So now the test sampler will take that function reference, and you see, using that reference, it is calling that function. Using that reference, it is actually calling that function here. So that is what we are doing. Yes, hope you people got it. Yes. Just a minute, please. Just a minute. Yeah. So this way, you see, dynamically we can pass a function reference to another function. So this will be the most common code which you'll see in Angular, basically, which uses TypeScript, you know. Okay, so this knowledge as of now should be enough for you people. Okay, so which helps you people to work with Angular. Yes. Now you know arrow function, how it looks like. Yes. So now let's go back to our Angular applications. Here for Angular, I was using Plunker. Today, I'm going to show you people how to handle forms using Angular framework. Okay. Yes. So have you noticed it? Actually, uh, the, the projects which you have created. So if you want to browse through the projects which you have created previously, so what you need to do is here, you see, with a username, if you click on this button, you'll find My Plunks. Go to My Plunks, where you'll find all the projects which you have created. Okay, so this is the one which I created yesterday. Click on this edit. Let's do one thing. I'll create a form here. Um, we'll create a template. For creating a template, what we need to do, we'll create a HTML page. You see, in the source folder, I'm creating a HTML page. Click on OK. Next thing, let's create a register form here. For that, I'll be writing the code. Let's create a form. In this form, we will add fields for registration purpose. Okay. So what will be those fields here? So we'll add username, first name or first name, last name, email, and phone. Yes, these are the fields. Okay, first name, we'll add an input field here. We'll have content assist here also. Template proposals will be there. You can make use of it. Yeah. Okay. This is the form. What is the next thing we need to do here, tell me? We got a very plain form, don't worry. Yes. So what is the next thing we need to do here? How will you handle the forms? So as of now, what you're looking at is a template, right? It is a template. So how will you handle forms here?
By events.
By events, okay. I mean, now I would like to read this form data, or process this form data. What I need here. In the last class, we are going through Angular, right? Okay. If you want, I'll show you the architecture of Angular once. You tell me, all of you. Just check this. What you need. Think about it. Try to recollect.
Services.
No.
You need to place the template URL in the component.
Okay. Actually, you need a component. You need to create a component first of all. You don't have a component here, right? So always to manage a template, you need a component. To manage a template, you need a component. So always the template is associated to a component. Just remember, to handle the template, you need a component. To handle the template, you need a component. So we need to create a component here. Yes. You see, template, you'll find that you have a component associated to it. See, a component controls a patch of a screen called a view, and basically that view we are creating it using a template. Okay. Uh, you see here in this first statement we have it. We'll write component classes to manage templates. Okay. In the Angular application, you have HTML templates with Angularized markup. Writing component classes to manage the templates here. Okay. Yes. So you need a template for it. You can say that always. You need a template to manage you need a component to manage templates. Yes. So how to define a component? So what is a component, by the way? Component is actually a TypeScript class.
Class.
Yes, it's a TypeScript class. You see, I'm creating a new class here. You have this new file option here on the extreme left side down. If you can check this, just if you can follow my cursor, you'll find new file. Click on it. In the source folder, I'll add it. Let's say app dot or component register dot component dot ts. You see, always a TypeScript code, you write it in a file whose extension is .ts. Okay. We got this file here. Let's define a class. Export class. I'll name this component class as register component. Next, as of now, this is just a normal Java class. Sorry, normal TypeScript class. We need to make it a component class. So what you'll do?
You add the component decorator.
Yes, you need to add the component decorator here. Just first of all, before we add the component decorator, you have to import it. Import component from @angular/core. This way, first of all, you need to import that component from the Angular library. Okay. Next, let's configure this class as a component class by using this component decorator @component, and then here, you see, we'll add selector my app. What is the selector, by the way? Yes, what is the selector? For the selector, Actually, this selector, my app, it indicates that this template content, whatever the content which you got here in this template, okay, it should be loaded into the index page my app element. Here in this view, you see this index page is your view. So here in the view, we want that template code or that content of the template should be displayed here in this my app element. Whatever the template code you have, template creates a page, right? Yes, it creates um page, or you can think of it as it represents a small portion of the page. You see, now it represents my app here, the template. So the template code you will add it here. Okay, I mean it will be loaded here. So whatever the content you got in the template, it will be loaded. Means not the code, but that form. So using the template, we are creating a form now, right? So this form will be displayed in the index page my app element. Okay, so this my app element will be replaced with that template code, I can say. Yes. Okay. So now let's go back to this component. Next thing, we need to associate the template to this component. Template URL. See, um, dot slash src slash register dot html. This way, you associate the template to this register component. So I'll save this code. Um, Next thing here, whenever you're working with the forms, you'll find that you need to add an additional module. Okay, you need to add an additional module here. So what is that module?
Forms module.
Forms module should be added here. So let's add that forms module. Yes, import forms module from Angular Forms. This is what you do. This is how first of all we'll import the forms module, and then you need to include it here in the modules. After importing it, you make sure that you add this module here in this imports list, forms module. Yes, this is what we need to do, all of you. Okay, here after importing it, next thing in the page, you please make a note of all these things. Okay, go to the component and make sure that you you import something called as forms here as well. Ng form, import ng form from Angular Forms mod library. Okay, this Angular Forms. This is what we need to do. That's it. Save this code. Now what's next? You see, you'll find that in our application as of now, we got how many components? Couple of components. In the last class, we created one component called as app component, right? This is the previous one, if you can check this, which displays the Angular version. That's it. And now today we have created another component, right? And each component has got a template associated to it. If I run this code, by default, which component will be loaded and which component's template code will be loaded in the index page as of now?
App component.
So app component code will be loaded by default. So that is what happens here. Yes. So, but why it loads app component? Because you see, in the bootstrap, what I did is here, I have mentioned that app component name. But what I want to do is here, I want to load register component. That means I want to load that form. The template associated to that register component, it contains that form code, right? So I would like to load that app register component. So for that, first of all, you have to import that register component here. Okay. So make sure that you import that register component. Import register component from app, sorry, dot slash register dot component. Don't add ts. Yes. Now we have imported that register component. Now let's include that component to this module. Okay. So we'll add that component to this module. Yes, this way. So you see what all the components you have, you want to include in the module, you'll simply add those component names here. Yes. You'll simply add that component names here. That is what you are supposed to do. So the next thing is here, we need to also change that bootstrap attribute value. So as of now, what happens? You see by default that app component will be loaded because in the bootstrap I've mentioned that app component name. Now you change it to register component. Simply change it to register component here. That's it. Save this code. Now let's run this code. So if everything goes fine, you should be able to see that form. You see, you got the form, but it really doesn't look good, right? So let's beautify this form. Let's add some styles to this form. So this is where we can make use of Bootstrap. Okay, this is where we can make use of Bootstrap. So Bootstrap provides support to add styles to our page. Okay, yes. In the Bootstrap, you got predefined CSS classes which you can make use of to make that form look neat and organize that form components. I can say yes. To organize that form components, we can make use of it. Okay. Here if you want to use this bootstrap, you need to import or include that bootstrap libraries here. How will you include that bootstrap libraries? What you're supposed to do? Where you will add them? You go to this index.html. Okay, so it's very easy using this Plunker. So if you want to add that bootstrap libraries, it will be pretty simple and straightforward. Okay, using this Plunker. Yes. So you see, you go to the index page, and in the index page, what you need to do is here, you'll find on the extreme right side, you'll find this icon, find an external libraries. You see the second icon here, it looks like a book. You see, find an external libraries. Click on this. When you click on this here, you see now that this part of the editor will help you people to include the libraries. It helps you people to include the libraries, I can say. Okay, yes. You know, you'll find bootstrap here. If you can check this, just add this bootstrap. How will you add bootstrap? You got this button here, right? So it's a magic stick. You can just click on this. When you click on this, you see on the left side in the index page, you'll find that the bootstrap libraries have been added. Line number 6 and 7. Previously, these two lines were not there in the index page, but you'll find that bootstrap libraries here. You see, you'll get a CSS file included here in a JS file related to that bootstrap. Yes. Okay. See, apart from bootstrap libraries, you need one more library here. Yes. Apart from bootstrap, you need another library. What is that library? jQuery. Bootstrap internally uses jQuery. Okay. Just click on this jQuery. That's it. Even jQuery is added. That's it. So the jQuery library is also added. So these are the three things which are needed here to work with Bootstrap. Now we have included them. So let's use Bootstrap to add or make some changes to our form. So especially, we'll beautify that form, I can say. Yes, let's add some styles to our form. So go to that register page. First of all, wrap this complete code in a div element, and to this div element, give the name of the class as container. Okay, give the name of the class as container. Yes. Okay. So just this is this is the CSS class provided by Bootstrap. Actually, you'll find that this is one of the CSS class. provided by Bootstrap. Yes. So which helps us to organize that elements here in this page now. Next thing, here let me wrap this form, not form, I'm sorry. Now let's wrap this form controls in a div element this way, which adds some styles here. So you got two elements here which are associated, right? Label and text field. So basically you'll find that this label is associated to this text field itself. You have to group them together using this class called as form group. Form group. This is one of the CSS classes provided by Bootstrap itself. You have to do the same for the other elements also. Group that label and text fields together. So that is what we're doing, grouping the labels and text fields together, so that they will be accordingly aligned. Okay, they'll be accordingly aligned. So just for that alignment purpose, we'll be using this form group here. Okay, next what we did, yes, now we have grouped these elements accordingly. The next thing is add the CSS class to each input element. CSS class, you see, class equal to form control. Just add this CSS class called as form control to all the input elements, so that it will just change the appearance of that input field. Okay, this is also from Bootstrap itself. Okay, all the form controls are input fields. Just add the CSS class form control. What it does basically, it will change the appearance, look and feel of that text field. Okay, okay. I hope you have gone through this. Now this time, let's see how this form looks like. Okay, click on run. Now it looks a lot better than the previous one, right? Yes. Now this is your form. Okay. Now we got the form. You see, we have a template which renders that form. In the form, in the template, you got that form code, and you have a component associated to it. What's next? You see, when user submits the form, I would like to read that form data in the component. How can we access the form data in the component class? That is my question. So that from here, from the component, maybe I would like to further process that form data. You know, maybe I would like to store it into the database server or send it to to a REST service in the backend. How will you do that? Yes.
Event binding.
No. So what are we supposed to do? Not event binding.
The services.
No.
We use jQuery for that.
So actually, what are we supposed to do here? So first of all, you need to you need something to hold this form data. Yes, you need something to hold this form data. Yes, to hold the data. Whatever the data user types in this form, to hold that form data, we need something. If it is a Java application where you will store the data, let me just help you people this way. So if it is a Java application where you will store this data, no. How do you handle data in Java? Where you will store the data? In the objects. That's right. So basically, you'll store the data in the objects. That is what you do, right? So how about Angular application here? Even we can create an object, okay, to store the data. So in order to create an object, you need to define a class first, right? So let's do one thing. Here, I will define a class whose instance will be used to store that form data. Yes. Click on this new file option, register.ts. You see, I'm creating a TypeScript class here. Sorry, TypeScript file, register.ts is TypeScript file. And then here I'll define a class this way, class register. And then in this class, you know what, here I'll add fields so that this class object will be used to store the data. Okay. Here, first of all, I'll define a constructor, and in this constructor, I'll do this. First name, sorry, that's all. So I'll do one thing. I'll make this variables public. You see, what I did here, I've added a constructor to this class, and in this class, sorry, yeah, we have added a constructor in this class. You see, in this constructor, in turn, we have added parameters, and I've declared them as public. Yes, and this should be enough. You know what? I can say that now to this class, we have just added variables or properties: first name, last name, email, and phone. I can say that now in this class we got these variables in the class. These are not just local variables. Okay, they are the properties of this class. We can do that. Generally, if it is Java, how will you declare variables? First of all, you declare the variables in the class directly, right? And then you'll add a constructor. In the constructor, you'll write the code to again initialize that variables. This dot first name equal to first name. This dot last name equal to last name. This dot email equal to email. Something like that, right? But have you noticed it here? We don't do that. So just define a constructor, add the properties directly here itself. What about the initialization code? The constructor will take care of initializing these variables. That's it. The constructor is going to take care of initializing these variables. This is a shortcut for us in TypeScript. So the redundant code, writing initialization, assigning values to that variables, we can just avoid it. Okay. I hope you people got it. Next thing, you know what? I want that the form fields data, whatever the data user types here in this form fields, I want that form field data to be populated into this register objects property. Okay, that form data has to be populated into register instance properties. I can say yes. I hope you people got it. What to do? You see, this is where your data binding comes into the picture. We got something called as data binding. So what we can do is we can bind that register properties. Okay, we got this register class properties, right? We can bind them to this form fields so that the data, it will be automatically populated into whatever the data user types in that form will be populated into that fields, and vice versa also. Whatever the data which you got in the properties, okay, the register class properties, if there is any data, it will be populated into this form fields. The other way also it works. Okay, the other way also it works, I can say. It is called as two-way binding. We call it as two-way binding. If you type any, if user types anything in that form fields, it is populated into that properties, and if you make any changes to that property values, they will be updated in the form fields. Yes. So how will you do that binding first of all? So for that, you need to create an object here. Okay, register equal to new register, and we'll pass some values here. See, say Harry D harry@mail.com in that number. And remember, you're using a class from a different file, so make sure that you import it here. Import register from dot slash register class register file. That's it. Okay, save this code. Now you know what? We got this property in this register component. Now we got this property called as register, and this register property, it holds that register class instance. This register property actually, it holds the register class instance or object. Okay, it holds register class instance or object, I can say. Yes. So what to do with this object? See, this object contains the data. Now we are initializing it. We are calling the parameterized constructor of the register class. So this values will be stored into the properties, I can say. Yes. Now let's bind this register instance properties to that form. Okay, we have to bind them. Go to that register form. Here in the form, now we are going to use Angular directives. Okay, we will be using Angular directives here. So what are those directives? So you got something called as ng model. ng model. This is the directive. ng model. So ng model equal to register dot, we have to specify the property name. So this form field, you want to bind it to which property of that register instance? First name.
Name.
So similarly, this way you can bind the other input fields to that instance properties. Email, phone. Yes, you can check this all of you once. Let's see. I'll run this code. Yeah. So have you noticed it here? This form is actually populated with that property values. This form is actually populated with that property values here. That is what you notice. I hope you got it. So is this clear for you people, all of you? So anyone got any questions? Now what we saw here, you see, that property values, whatever the data which you got in the properties, you see that property values, they've been populated here. The property values have been populated here in this form fields. It is actually two-way binding, as I told you people. If you make any changes in this form, you will find that here this form field content is populated into the property also, vice versa, the other way. I'll show you. Let's do this. Here, in this form, I'll I'll try to directly read the property value. Can we do that? Yes. Can I read that register objects property value? Let's say I want to read first name property value. Can I read it here in this template? In the template, can I read it?
Hey,
Actually, you saw that. How to access the properties of the component in the template? In the last class, we saw that. How to access the properties of the template. We use expressions for that. Banana brackets, we saw that, right? We use that expressions, banana brackets for that purpose. Let's do that. Here, I'll add this expression. Register dot first name. Now we are directly accessing that property value. Okay. Yes. Why I'm doing it, I'll show you. See, if you make any changes to this form field, it will be dynamically updated. Down, if you can check this just under the button, or else I'll do one thing here. I'll add it in the form itself. Let's see. Yeah, you see, just beside the button, you got that value, first name, Harry, down beside the button. Okay. I'll make some changes to this field content in the field, first name field. We got the data, right? I'll remove this value. You see, if I delete y is also deleted from the property. It is updated. You delete everything, or the property is blank. Let's add some other name. Okay. Yes. Let's say Kumar. You see, you got Kumar here. That means it is two-way binding. So if you make any changes to this input field, it will be updated in the property, register object property. And if that property value changes, if the register property value changes, that value will be updated here in this input field also. The property value will be updated in this input field. The either way, from both the sides. Yeah. So is this clear for you people, all of you? This binding is very important for you people. Yes, all of you. Is it clear? So what we did here so far, this is the first step in handling the forms. Yes, all of you. Any questions? Okay, good. So if it is clear, I'll do one thing. I'll stop it here today, and one more thing. Here, I'll share this Plunker link. Okay, this project link. I pasted it here. If you can check this in the GoToMeeting chat, you'll find this Plunker's link. You can just review that code which I've written. Okay, you click on that link. Let me know whether you're able to access that project code which I've written. Are you able to access that? This Plunk which you got here.
Yes, we are getting.
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
You can just review that code, go through it. Okay. Yeah. Fine. So in the next class, what I'll do is I'll talk about validating this form. Okay. Handling form submissions and validating the form. These are the things which we'll be discussing. So when you will have your Angular class again, I'll inform you people. From tomorrow onwards, follow your regular schedules. You will have classes at your regular times. Okay. And the meeting links have changed. I will mail you people. Okay, just follow your regular links to join the class from tomorrow onwards again. Yes, that's it. Okay then. Thank you all. Bye bye. I'll stop it here today.